To summarize, to calculate the R bar, which was the notation we are using to calculate the average annual return for some investment in the past, whether it's a stock or a bond. To calculate the R bar, we need to add up all the R's, all the annual returns, and divide by how many we have added up. In the next few minutes, I would like to cover the topic of calculating the average annual return. We will apply it to stock returns. Say you buy a share of stock today, next year you get extra money. What is your return over 1 year? And we typically calculate it in percent. So let's kind of take a step back and look at the formula that we use. The simple average return, if you wanted to calculate the average return, right? The simple average, as we know from different, things we deal with in life, is we take the numbers, add them all up, and divide by how many we have, right? Same idea here. And that's what we call arithmetic average return. So arithmetic average is the same thing as the simple average. If you want to calculate the return R, the average return, R bar, we add the return for year 1, return for year 2, and so on, all the way to the return in the last year we are looking at, which is year T, and divide by how many returns we've just added up, which is T many returns. That's the arithmetic average return formula. Next, let's look at one more way how the average annual return on stock investment could be calculated. And this is known as the geometric average return. So there is the arithmetic average, the simple average, and the geometric average. What is the geometric average return? Let's say this is what we know. Let's say today, year 0, you pay $100 to buy 1 share of stock. So we have stock price in dollars on the vertical axis. And then we have years in the future on the horizontal axis. So today you pay $100 to buy 1 share of stock. 1 year later, the price drops to only $50 a share. Another year goes by, end of year 2, it goes back to $100 a share. Then $200 at the end of year 3 and $150 at the end of year 4. This is what we are given. Let's answer the following 3 questions. First, what is the return you made if you bought this share of stock over the next 4 years? Second question, let's calculate the arithmetic average annual return over this 4-year time period. And 3, the third question is, what is the geometric average annual return? Let's start with question number 1. Return over the 4-year period. For that, we need to first think of what the investment was worth at the beginning of the 4-year period. So how much did you pay to buy it? $100. It's given, right? Next, what's the ending value of your investment, which is end of year 4? That's also given, $150 at the end of year 4. What is the dollar return on this investment? Well, how much extra money did you make? You made additional $50, right? Which is the difference between what you have at the end and where you started. What's the percentage return? Well, we take the $50 additional money and divide by our starting point, which is $100 at the beginning. And we get $50 extra money earned divided by $100, the original amount invested, and we get a 50% return, right? So that's over the 4-year time period, a 50% gain, a 50% return on your money. So the point of this question was to show to you that we can calculate the return over 1 year or 4 years or 100 years. It doesn't matter. But usually what we do in finance, what we are interested in finance, in the textbook, in real life, is how much you earn on the per year basis. And that takes us to questions 2 and 3. 2 being, what's the average return over 1 year? And we want to calculate the arithmetic average. And in question number 3 that we will do later, we will instead look at the geometric average and what's different about it. So to answer question 2, what is it that we need to calculate? Arithmetic average annual return. Return is typically calculated in percent, right? Like 5% return, 50% return. Do we have percentages? No, we don't. We are given the dollar amounts. We don't have any percentages yet. So how about we take the information that we are given and first figure out what they tell us about the percentage return we would be earning on this investment every single year. In year 1, in year 2, in year 3, and in year 4. So when you pay $100 to buy 1 share today, and when a year later the price drops to 50, what does it tell you about the annual return, the return over 1 year? Clearly, it fell by half, right? And the way we calculate return, which is clearly a 50% drop, right? We always use this little formula, and I always tell my students to memorize this trick as new minus old divided by old. New minus old divided by old. You take the new price, $50 at the end of the year, subtract the old price, $100 at the beginning of the year, and then you divide that result that you find by the old number, $100. So 50 minus 100 is negative 50. We take negative 50, divide by 100, and get negative 0.5. That's in decimals. It's the same thing as a negative 50% return if you convert it into percent. So a 50% decrease in your investment value. Now we can use the same little formula, new minus old divided by old, to calculate the percentage return in the remaining 3 years. So what's the percentage return when you go from $50 to $100? The money doubles, right? What does it mean that the money doubles? It's 100% return because you add another 100% of what you had, another $50 on top of $50. But to use this little trick, you do 100 minus 50 divided by 50, right? New minus old divided by old, and you get 1. That's in decimals. In percent, that's a 100% increase. Next, you go from year 2 to year 3, right? From $100 a share to $200 a share, right? What does it tell you about the percent return? Is it 200%? Actually, it's also a 100% return, just like what we just found for the previous year. It looks strange, but if you think about it, percentage return could be the same every single year, but it doesn't mean the same dollar amount that you gain. It could be different. So what's going on here when we go from 100 to 200? Once again, we double our money. And doubling our money means always the same thing. It's 100% gain. You gain another amount on top of what you already had. Another 100 on top of 100. To verify it, to check the math, you do new minus old divided by old, and you get a 100% increase. Right, so the money doubles going from year 1 to year 2, from $50 to $100, and it doubles again when you go from $100 to $200. That's why the percent is the same for both years, even though they mean different dollar amounts. Here we gain $50, going from year 2 to year 3, we gain instead $100. Okay, and let's calculate the last return over the fourth year. New minus old divided by old. 150 minus 200 divided by 200. Negative 0.25. That's a 25% decrease. Negative 25% return. Okay, so why did we have to go through this? Because we need to calculate the average annual return. And return is typically measured in percent, right? So now we have the percentages. Minus 50% in year 1, 100% in year 2, another 100% in year 3, and minus 25% in year 4. Okay, that's our starting point. Now, what's the average? Well, super simple. The arithmetic average is nothing but the simple average. You add up the 5 returns that we have, divide them by the four returns that we have, divide that sum by 4, and you get 31.25% on average every year, right? You can either add the returns in decimals, then you get the answer in decimals. You could also do the sum using percent and divide by 4, in which case you would get 31.25% directly. What does the arithmetic average annual return tell us? It tells us that if you invest your money for just 1 year, whether you buy the share today and sell it a year later, or you buy it in 2 years and sell 3 years from today, the point is you buy and sell it 1 year later. If you do that, your annual return would be 31.25% on average, right?